See, these are the questions collected from the students, and these are all based on the memory of students who have done exam on September 4th, shift 1. First, let's see some inorganic questions. Element with atomic number 101 and 104 belongs to respectively. See, here they have given actinides and group 4. They are asking about they belong to which group. First one, belong to which group? See this, we know that actinides, see, actinides are, see, they are 92-103. 92-103, they belong to 3B group or group 3 elements. So, clearly this 101 element that belongs to group 3, whereas 104 that belongs to fourth group. So clearly, it's very clear this first element comes under actinides, 101 that is in actinides, whereas 104 that belongs to fourth group. So clearly first option is the correct one. Okay. Now let's see. Okay, students, these are the questions based on, see, what the students have written on September 4th, shift 1, purely based on their memory based questions. Now, in this, let's see some inorganic questions. So, they are first one, elements with atomic number 101 and 104. They belong to what? Actinides or group 4. So, they have given different options. See, from this, see, we know that actinides are 89 to 103. Of course, this belongs to 3B. This is also actinium, belongs to 3B. Now, clearly, element with atomic number 101 that belongs to group 3B, or according to IUPAC system, this is group 3 element. Group 3 element. So, it is an actinide. Whereas 104 that comes under the next group. So, this element belongs to fourth group. Okay, it's very clear. So, first option is the correct one. Now, let's see the next one. Here, they have given a question related to coordination compounds. It's an important chapter, and see here they have given an interesting question. Platinum complexes with coordination number 4. Platinum complexes with coordination number 4 are square planar. They are square planar in shape. Square planar in shape. So clearly this is square planar complex. Now look at this. Platinum, ethylene diamine, that is a bidentate, whereas NO2 is an ambidentate ligand. Ambidentate. Here either nitrogen or oxygen can act as a donor. So based on that, see, we can write different isomers, both may be NO2 or see this. Here one of them may be just a minute. One of them may be ONO. See, in that way we can write this complex. In another structure, see, both the ligands may be ONO. Here oxygen is the donor atom. So totally 3 isomers are possible. Okay. Now see this. Here the question is the correct order of O minus 2, order of size, ionic radii, O minus 2, F minus, Mg plus 2 and Na plus. Clearly, if you look at them clearly, see, if you see their number of electrons, all these have 10 electrons, means all these have same number of electrons, means they are isoelectronic species. They are isoelectronic species. In case of isoelectronic species, size is inversely proportional to atomic number. If atomic number decreases, size increases. Now look at O minus 2, F minus, Mg plus 2 and Na plus. If you look at their atomic numbers, for this it is 8, whereas for fluoride this is 9, for magnesium 12, this is 11. Clearly, if you set them in an order, see O minus 2, it is larger because it has the lowest atomic size, whereas Mg plus 2 has highest atomic size. So this is the largest ion and this is the smallest one. Therefore, O minus 2, let's just write them in the order of their atomic number, 8, 9, 11 and 12. So this is clearly F minus and Na plus, this is Mg plus 2. It's very clear. So this is applicable for isoelectronic species. Okay. Now see this one. Here, see the next one. Here, which oxides are formed on heating lithium, sodium and potassium with excess of oxygen? See, this is, we have seen this in group 1A elements. Lithium, see the formation of oxides. O minus 2, by sharing its electrons with one O, by sharing electrons with one O, it forms peroxide. This peroxide, nothing but O2 minus 2. By sharing its electrons with O2, we get O2 minus 1. This is oxide, this is peroxide and this is superoxide. Okay. Now see, formation of peroxide or superoxide, that depends on the ability of this with other oxygen. See, this capacity of sharing this negative charge with other oxygen depends on the size of cation here. Among these, lithium ion is the smallest. Lithium ion is the smallest. So, in presence of lithium ion, this cannot share this negative charge with other oxygen. So, here lithium can form only monoxide. Only monoxide. From lithium to sodium, size increases. Because of increase in size, see, this oxygen can share electrons with this oxygen. So that leads to the formation of peroxide. So sodium can form peroxide. Whereas if you go to potassium, rubidium and cesium, due to increase in size, see, sharing of this charge with others is possible. Because of that, potassium, rubidium and cesium, they can form superoxide. Okay. So, this is the reason for the formation of monoxide, peroxide and superoxides. Therefore, if you look at these options, lithium here, see clearly lithium monoxide, sodium peroxide and potassium superoxide. Okay. In that way we can predict the different oxides for different elements. If you go to the next one, here they have given a beautiful question on coordination compounds. One more question. See, this is very interesting. Here see the complexes given CrH2O taken 6 times plus 2. If you observe all these complexes, in all these, the ligand is a weak field ligand. Weak field ligand. In presence of weak field ligand, there is no change in their configuration. Normally, see, configuration changes only in presence of a strong field ligand. But here in all these options, only weak ligand. So you need not to think about any theory. Simply you can write, see here what is the oxidation number of chromium, Cr plus 2. Chromium configuration 4s1, 3d5. Of course argon is there. So for plus 2, 4s0, 3d4. So number of unpaired electrons 4. Number of unpaired electrons is 4. You need not consider CFT or VBT. If weak ligand is there, no problem. You can write the normal configuration. It's enough because time factor is very important in exam. If it is a regular class, we do with CFT or VBT. But for 6 coordination compounds, CFT is the best. Next, if you take another complex, FeH2O taken 6 times, here its oxidation number is plus 2. For iron, its configuration is 4s2, 3d6. For Fe plus 2, 4s0, 3d6. You can look at the normal configuration, no need of any theory, waste of time. In exam, I am telling in exam point of view. See, 3d6 means again there are 4 unpaired electrons. See, these two have same number of unpaired electrons. Therefore, its magnetic moment for them is same because magnetic moment mu is equal to root of n into n plus 2. N is same for both. So magnetic moment is same for both. That's all. Similarly, you can check the remaining. Very clear. For example, CrH2O taken 6 times already written. Here it has 4 unpaired electrons. And if you look at CO, here its oxidation number, see, you can see that even if you can write like this for this also. In that case also you can follow the same method, because these are all weak ligands. Okay, if all are weak ligands, you need not to think about any theory. Simply you can write a normal configuration according to Aufbau and Hund's rule or Pauli's principle. If strong ligands are there, then we think of CFT. Now, let us see, here they have given a question based on chemical bond, very fundamental question, beautiful question, very nice. See this graph, this is the common graph seen in the first page of chemical bond. See here on y-axis potential energy, and this are bond length, distance between the bonded atoms. See, initially they are supposed to be away from each other, two atoms. As the two atoms move closer, as close as possible, their energy decreases. See, if you move from right to left, the distance between them decreases and their potential energy decreases. At a certain stage, see, repulsions arise. So after that, see, because of see, okay, because in the same way, similar graph, because of repulsions, potential energy increases. Okay. Now, if you look at this graph, for AB, this energy is lowest. See the energy, it has lowest energy. Okay. Okay, here it has because of repulsions, here energy increases. Okay, so if you look at the graph related to AB, it has the potential energy. Energy released in the formation of AB is highest. It has highest bond enthalpy, so it is the strongest bond. That's all. So in that way, we can answer this question very clear from this graph based on potential energy. Now come to this lead nitrate. See, lead nitrate is PbNO3 taken twice. It is the heavy metal nitrate. On heating, it decomposes to give PbO plus NO2. We know that NO2 is the reddish brown gas. So here this is the compound B. Now this B on cooling gives a colorless solid. See, this on cooling what happens if NOD is cooled? We get N2O4. This is colorless compound C. Gas B on reaction with CnO2 on reaction with NO. What do you get? It's very clear from their formula. N2O3. N2O3. Here the question is oxidation number of nitrogen in D. This is the compound D. So from this it is, what is the oxidation number of this? Nothing but +3. Very simple question here. Based on fundamentals, they are giving questions based on fundamentals. Very, very interesting questions also. Now, let's see the next one. See this. Here we have to choose the correct statements. First one is, see the statements. First one is, in the metallurgy of iron, limestone is converted to CaO. Limestone, see, in the extraction of iron, ore is subjected to higher temperatures. So limestone, nothing but CaCO3, that decomposes to give CaO. So statement A is correct. Statement B, silver nitrate is extracted as anionic complex. See, silver nitrate, that is extracted from silver glands or horn silver, AgCl or Ag2S. To this sodium cyanide is added. Here it is separated as silver cyanide complex, which has -1. Therefore, statement 2 is also correct, anionic part. Now, look at the statement C. This is nickel is purified by Mons process. In Mons process, nickel is heated with carbon monoxide and it is converted to nickel tetracarbonyl. This is volatile. This is volatile. This is subjected to high temperature and again decomposed to nickel and carbon monoxide. See, this is impure metal. From this pure nickel is separated. So statement C is also correct. And the last one, fourth statement is zirconium and titanium, they are purified by Van Arkel process. In Van Arkel process, for example, titanium is heated with iodine, converted to titanium tetraiodide. Again, this is volatile. Again, this is subjected to high temperature, decomposes to titanium and iodine. In that way, we can obtain pure titanium. So, fourth statement is also correct. Therefore, answer is A, B, C, D. Okay, this is
Welcome to the Narayana group. This is September 4th, first session, physical chemistry part. So this is the 9th question. Here the question is, at equilibrium for a reaction, A gives rise to B, correct representation of graph. For equilibrium process, graphs are very important. If I see the chemical process, A gives rise to B, then there is a possibility of formation of A from B. Then this process is called as reversible process. In reversible process, A will be converted into B, B will be converted into A. With how much rate A is converting into B is called as rate of forward reaction. B is converting into A, this is called as rate of backward reaction. At a particular point, rate of forward reaction is equal to rate of backward reaction. This point is called as equilibrium point. So here I can plot graph in two ways. So one is rate on y-axis and time on x-axis. On the other hand, I can plot a graph in between concentration on y-axis and time on x-axis. You see here, in a reversible process, with the expiry of time, rate of forward reaction decreases. It happens like this. 1 minute. And backward reaction, at a particular point, rate of forward reaction is equal to rate of backward reaction. This means rate of forward reaction decreases, rate of backward reaction increases. At a particular point, both of them are same. But when I am taking concentration, concentration of A decreases like this, concentration of B increases like this. So this is the perfect graph for this question. So B is the answer. I hope you understood. Two graphs are possible. One is rate and time, other one is concentration and time. For a rate and time, this is the perfect representation. The reason is, at a particular point, rate of forward reaction is equal to rate of backward reaction, then that point is called as equilibrium point. Now, I am moving to second question. See sir, this is a matching question framed in a single answer. This belongs to surface chemistry. Colloids. Sir, you know about colloids. I am not talking about colloids here, and just I am going to discuss about classification of colloids. Here, depending upon the solute particle size, we have different types of solutions, homogeneous, heterogeneous, and true solutions. Different kinds are there. Now I am talking about a thing here. In a solution which is present in maximum quantity, I am adding a substance, minimum quantity. This is called as a solute. This is called as a solvent. Solvent is also called as dispersion medium. Solute is also called as dispersed phase. Depending upon dispersed phase and dispersed medium, dispersion medium, colloids are several types. Those things given here, what is the dispersed phase and what is dispersion medium, they have given here, and examples for them are given on right hand side. See, I am taking emulsion. Emulsion is a solution where both dispersed phase and dispersion medium, both of them are liquid. They are called as emulsions. For emulsions, example is milk. For the first one, if I am taking foam, for foam, gas dissolved in liquid. When gas dissolved in liquid, I am taking froth is the example. Now I am going for the gel. Automatically Gel is nothing but liquid dissolved in solid. So here jelly, and next one I am taking aerosol. Aerosol example is smoke. So here this is the first option. Once again, this is directly from your NCERT textbook based on dispersed phase and dispersion medium. What is the dispersed phase and dispersion medium? Liquid, solid or gas. What is the dispersed phase here? What is the dispersion medium here? Depending upon those things, he has framed this question. So this is the question from surface chemistry. Subtopic is colloids. Next, I am moving to the third question. So this is the question from electrochemistry. Here we missed the salt bridge. See sir, here the basic concept behind this one is electrochemical cell and the other one is electrolytic cell. You know that electrical energy will be converted into chemical energy, chemical energy will be converted into electrical energy. The study of this total thing is called as electrochemistry. In electrochemical cell, normally with the with the spontaneous redox reaction, electrical energy will be generated. We will call that one as EMF, electromotive force. Electromotive force can be calculated as oxidation potential of anode plus reduction potential of cathode. Oxidation potential of anode plus reduction potential of cathode. Here zinc reduction potential, it is minus 0.76 sir. If I add these things, I will add like this: reduction potential of cathode minus reduction potential of anode also I can write. That means 0.34 minus 0.76. Here 1.1 volts you will get. Now you listen here. So normally this is a concentration cell made up of zinc and copper. Here zinc acting as anode and copper acting as cathode. This is the example of Daniell cell, which is nothing but galvanic cell, which is an example of electrochemical cell. In electrochemical cell, chemical energy will be converted into electrical energy. Now you see, here a spontaneous redox reaction takes place in between zinc and copper. By that energy will be generated. Flow of electrons takes place from anode to cathode. You know all that procedure. And here in this diagram, he is applying external potential. When he is applying external potential is equal to 1.1 volts. That means EMF generated by the cell. Then automatically cell working will be stopped. Of course, if what we are applying from outside is greater than 1.1 volts, then automatically reverse process takes place. That means energy will be utilized to non-spontaneous redox reaction. For non-spontaneous redox reaction, that means cell will be reversed. That means flow of electrons previously moving from zinc to copper, now they will move from copper to zinc. This point we have to understand. See, at E is equal to 1.1 volts, no electron will flow, definitely. So external potential is equal to generated one, then automatically electron flow will not take place. Next, E greater than 1.1 volts, electron will flow from copper to zinc. Anode and cathode, the working will be reversed. And at E less than 1.1 volts, zinc will dissolve and copper will deposit. Sir, anode At anode always oxidation takes place, sir. At cathode always reduction takes place in a normal cell, normal concentration cell. That means copper will be deposited here, zinc rod that enter into the solution in the form of Zn2 plus by leaving electrons. Those electrons will move from anode to cathode. Am I correct? So that means zinc is entering into the solution, that electrons will be taken by copper and copper will be deposited on that electrode. Now, fourth option you see, at E less than 1.1, zinc will deposit and copper will dissolve. Sir, this is the correct option, this is the correct option, this is the correct option. He is asking about incorrect option. So this is the incorrect option. Why this is the incorrect option? If EMF is less than 1.1, zinc will not be deposited. Zinc enters into the solution, copper will be deposited. That means this reaction happens. I hope you can. Zinc will be converted to Zn2 plus 2 electrons. Cu2 plus taking 2 electrons and it will be converted into copper. So this is the basic reaction. Zinc plus Cu2 plus gives rise to Zn2 plus Cu. Whenever external potential is less than 1.1, zinc will be oxidized, copper will be reduced. Whenever external potential is greater than 1.1, then automatically reverse takes place. Copper will be oxidized and Zn2 plus will be reduced to Zn. That means zinc will be precipitated. But he is telling E is less than 1.1. That is wrong. Here what we have to take, E is greater than 1.1, then only zinc will be precipitated and copper will be oxidized. Is it clear, sir? So that is why A and B and C, these three are correct. D option is wrong. So you have to keep D option in the exam. Now, I am moving to the next one. Sir, this is a theory question from atomic structure. In which region lines of Balmer series lie present? Sir, these are the levels, energy levels. Here you consider this one as ground state, higher excited state. Electron in hydrogen present here. By supplying some amount of energy to this electron, electron enters into the higher energy level and it is unstable at that state and it comes back. Before coming down, it releases energy in the form of radiation. Photosensitive plate. Then the lines observed are called as spectrum. In hydrogen spectrum, we will get several series of lines. Lyman series, Balmer series, like that, several series are there. Normally, for Lyman series, N1 is equal to 1, N2 is equal to 2, 3, so on. For Balmer series, N1 is equal to 2, N2 is equal to 3, 4, so on. Lyman series, lines are present in ultraviolet region. In Balmer series, lines are present in visible region. Paschen series, bracket series, all those are remaining, all series of lines are present in infrared, far infrared region. So Balmer series is present in which region? Visible region. Is it clear? Next one. For 1 mole of ideal gas, which of the following statements must be true? You see, sir, first option he has given. This question is from thermodynamics, basic concepts of thermodynamics. U and H depends only on temperature. Yes, sir. Ideal gas is a function of internal and internal energy of ideal gas only depends on temperature. Yes. The reason is no interatomic attractions are present in ideal gas. If I am taking ideal gas as a simple system, if I want to increase internal energy, there is only thing I can do, increasing of temperature. The reason is potential energy for this system is equal to 0. Only is consists of kinetic energy. Sum of kinetic energies of all moving particles is considered as internal energy. If I want to increase that internal energy, automatically I have to increase the temperature. So what I am telling here, it is independent of pressure and volume. That means if I am expanding ideal gas into vacuum, no change in temperature takes place. So that is why U and H depends only on temperature. You know that H is equal to U plus PV. For 1 mole of ideal gas, PV is equal to RT. H is equal to U plus RT. So here everything depends upon temperature. So enthalpy also depends on temperature. Sir, compressibility factor. Compressibility factor for ideal gas, it is 1. I am taking pressure, PV by RT, Z is equal to 1, ideal gas. Deviations we observe. So this is the negative deviation and this is the positive deviation. So that is wrong statement. For ideal gas, Z is equal to 1. And this is called as Mayer's equation, sir. Cp minus Cv is equal to R. I am not going to explain that one. All of you know that Cp minus Cv is equal to R. Next one, delta U is equal to Cv delta T for all process. That is also correct statement, sir. Delta H is equal to Cp delta T these two are the relationship, delta U. So this is delta H and this is delta U. This is the heat capacity at constant pressure, heat capacity at constant volume. This is internal energy, this is enthalpy. So this is also correct statement, delta U is equal to Cv delta T for all the process. So which option is correct? A, C, D, all the 3 options are correct. Next, I am moving to 6th one. Sir, this is the question from stoichiometry. 1 minute, sir. This is the question from stoichiometry. The important concept behind this one is N factor. Sir, KMnO4 in acidic medium, strong acidic medium, strong basic medium, neutral medium. Manganese oxidation state is +7. In acidic medium it will be converted to Mn+2. Change in oxidation state of manganese is called as N factor or else V factor, valency factor. What is this one? 5 in acidic medium. In basic medium it will be converted to +6. So here in neutral medium or weak alkaline medium it will be converted to +4. That means change is 3, change is 1 here. Now 20 ml of 0.2 gram H2O2 reacts completely with 0.316 grams KMnO4. Now I am taking 0.316. I am dividing that one with molecular weight 158, which is nothing but number of moles. if number of moles multiplied by valency factor, then automatically I will get number of equivalents. I will equate number of equivalents of KMnO4 with number of equivalents of H2O2. After getting number of equivalents of H2O2, I will multiply that one with equivalent weight, then I will get mass of H2O2, which is pure. Already he has given some amount there, then automatically mass of H2O2 obtained by how much I have taken into 100, I will get percentage purity. Sir, if you calculate mass of H2O2, I hope you will get approximately 1.7 like that. I think around 85% you will get for this question. So I have given the process, sir. You do that simple calculation, you will get the answer. What I have to do and what concept it works? KMnO4 valency factor. That means number of milliequivalents of H2O2 should be equal to number of milliequivalents of KMnO4, or else number of equivalents of KMnO4 should be equal to number of equivalents of H2O2. When I am getting number of equivalents of KMnO4, then automatically the number of equivalents of KMnO4 are equal to number of equivalents of H2O2. If I multiply that one with equivalent weight, I will get mass of H2O2, actual mass, but given mass is 0.2. So what I am getting here is the pure one, and this is the sample weight. Here from calculation how much weight I am getting by given weight into 100 will give actual mass percentage, that's you will get around 85%. Next one, this question I am taking. Yep, this is very basic question from chemical kinetics. You know, K is equal to 2.303 by T log A by A minus X. On this formula, it works. If A is 100, then X is percentage. K is equal to 2.303 by T log 100 by 100 minus X percent. He is telling that 75% completion takes place in 90 minutes. So I am taking T is equal to 2.303 by K log 100 by 100 minus how much percent? 75. Am I clear? So time how much it is taking? 90 minutes. Now he is asking 60% of reaction. Now time log 100 by 100 minus 60. Now you take the ratio in between these two. This time is 90 minutes. This time I have to calculate. Now you take the ratio in between these two. T1 by T2 is equal to, these two things will be cancelled. Log 100, 100 minus 75 is 25, sir. So you will get log 4 by log 100 by 100 minus 60, sir, 40. T1 you know, you have to calculate T2. You simplify this one. In exam only has given log 2.5 value, log 2 value, you substitute those values. T1 you substitute 90 minutes, you have to calculate T2. You calculate that one, approximately you will get 60 minutes. For the convenience, I don't want to waste the time, that's why I am directly telling you that answer. Next one. In the preparation of ammonia, mass of N2 taken is 2.5 kg and mass of hydrogen taken is 1 kg. Find mass of ammonia formed. Nitrogen reacts with hydrogen and it forms ammonia. 2 moles. So this is a balanced equation. 1 mole reacts with 3 moles and it is giving 2 moles. Now you calculate number of moles. N2 taken is 2.5 kg. 2500 grams. What is the molecular weight of nitrogen? It is 28. That means the number of moles you will get here. 1 kg. Nearly you are getting here 500 moles. No doubt this one will be less than 500 moles. Nitrogen is present in less quantity, then nitrogen becomes the limiting reagent. What is limiting reagent, sir? The substance which is present in less quantity than the required. You want to perform this reaction, you need a certain amount of nitrogen, but it is available less than the required quantity, then that is limiting reagent. That means product formation always takes place based on limiting reagent only. 1 mole is giving 2 moles of ammonia. If I am taking 1 mole of nitrogen, how many moles of ammonia I am getting? 2 moles of ammonia I am getting. So now 2500 by 28 moles gives how many moles of ammonia? Cross multiplication. You do cross multiplication. After doing cross multiplication, suppose you are getting Y moles of ammonia. He is asking about mass. Number of moles into molecular weight 17. You will get mass of ammonia formed. Around 3051 grams it will form. Clear? Process you should know. Here the important thing is limiting reagent. What is limiting reagent? In a reaction, if I am taking different quantities of reactants, according to stoichiometric quantity, one reactant may be less in quantity. How much you want? For the complete consumption of hydrogen, that much amount of nitrogen is not available here. Then this is called as limiting reagent. Product formation always takes place depends on limiting reagent only. After knowing the limiting reagent in a chemical process, directly product formation depends upon this limiting reagent and number of moles of limiting reagent. So nitrogen is the limiting reagent. 1 mole of nitrogen is giving 2 moles of ammonia. So these many moles of nitrogen gives how many moles of ammonia? Simply you will multiply that number of moles of ammonia with its molecular weight or molar mass, then automatically you will get the answer. And vapor pressure of solution obtained by mixing 1 mole of N-hexane. This is from solutions. 1 mole of N-hexane plus 3 moles of N-heptane. You know, this is based on Raoult's law. Total pressure is equal to PA naught XA plus PB naught XB. How much you are getting? 550. Total pressure is 550. PA naught pure form pressure. XA mole fraction of N-hexane. Mole fraction of any part is nothing but number of moles of that part by total number of moles. XA. Now XA I am taking here. So total 1 plus 3, 4. 3 parts it is there. I am taking this one as the first. And he has given one more information that vapor pressure of the solution increases by 10 mm of Hg on mixing 1 mole of N-heptane. That means he increased number of moles of heptane. That means 3 plus 1. Now it is 4 moles, it is 1 mole. 10 mm increase, 550 plus 10, 560. PA naught. Now 4 moles, 1 moles, 1 by 5 plus it is 4 by 5 PB naught. This is equation 2. Now I am solving equation 1 and equation 2. You will get N-heptane vapor pressure around 600 mm. This is a simple concept. Total pressure always equal to the partial pressures of the gases present in that one. Am I clear? So PA naught XA, PB naught XB. This is the partial pressure of N-hexane. This is the partial pressure of N-heptane. Just he changed the number of moles of N-heptane. By that, what happened here? Mole fraction is changed. From these two equations by solving, I am getting N-heptane pressure. He asked, what is the vapor pressure of pure N-heptane? Pure N-heptane is PB naught. Okay, thank you student.